Hello guys, and welcome back to Beanie Biker. Bit chilly today. So today we're here for my 6,000 mile review. That's about 9,500 kilometers or thereabouts. So the BMW GS750, it's got an 853cc motor, so it's exactly the same motor that's in the GS850. Maybe a slight difference in the pistons or the camshafts and stuff. So I've done now 6,000, just over 6,000 miles. What can I say about this bike? Ticks all the boxes. For only 77 brake horsepower, she's got plenty of grunt. What I've changed on the bike itself is I put bark busters on it with the shields as well. This has protected the bike many a time so far, as I do take this off-road, as you can tell by all the mud and stuff where it's been dropped. Same one here, that's covered in mud, and yeah, these have protected the levers and everything well. I've got double take mirrors on both sides. The other ones would have broken if I'd dropped the bike. I dropped this the other day, and all that happened is the bike hit the deck and this flipped up. Didn't break or anything. All I had to do is just tighten it up again. I've got the SW Motec crash bars along with the bash plate. These have come in very handy so far. She's had initial service and a 1-year service. I've kept the standard exhaust. I've just removed the sound resonator on the bottom and just put a Dominator mid pipe in there, so it's just a straight through noise now, which sounds nice, meaty and throaty. I've got the Vario hard cases. I've got the top box. I do have the side panniers, but I've also got for the soft panniers, I've got my Lomo panniers, which I haven't used on this bike, but I have on another bike. But I've just purchased the Moscow Moto, the rackless 80 litre. So I'm going to get that all set up on this bike soon. I'll probably keep the hard case on because it'll fit across the back seat. Just means I can, I've got a lockable thing for my helmet and stuff when I come off the bike. So comfort wise, I've put the BMW comfort seat on the bike. It's nice and cushy. I've also bought this this liner for the seat itself. One, protects the seat. I've got a cat that lives around our estate that's got a thing about sitting on my bike seat, which I found a lot of paw prints on, and I was just worried that it would scratch the bike or scratch the seat. So I've put this on. In the summer, it keeps you nice and cool on the bum. You're not getting a very hot bum. In the winter, it keeps most of the water off as well, because the water seems to sit underneath it and basically runs away. So you don't get a wet bum either, which is good. I think I'll bring you in a bit closer now for the rest. So as you'll notice, I have also changed the wheels on this bike. I mean, you cannot off-road unless you've got a decent set of wheels, and the cast wheels, there's been numerous reports of them being dented and bent. So I've got a pair of KKE VMX racing wheels, which cost me about 1,500 quid. So those are on the bike. I'm also running Michelin Karoo Freeze. These have come in very, very handy when off-road. On-road, they're okay. I've not had any issues with them. As you can see there, I've got a rear-facing and I have a front-facing camera as well. That's all linked to the battery. Here, this cable here is for my heated clothing. Again, links to the battery. But in the summer, I'll just remove it. That's not an issue. What else on the bike? As you see, sound box has been removed. Loads of space under there. Got the SW Motec bash plate. I'll give you a better look at that. And you can see it's taken a fair bit of beating. You see it's taken a fair bit of beating underneath. So they're good to have on the bike. And then we've got the bash bars. There you go, you can see that she's been used. She's been used and abused. So she had a little spill the other day. As you can see, it's all protected. You know, it's protected the levers, protected the bike itself, no damage to the bike. Those wheels do look nice on this bike. So then we come around to the front. So as you can see, I've got the guard on the front there, and you know from past videos that I changed the bracket from the 850GS. I've put the bracket on from that, so that just allows me to pop it up and down, just to give me a bit more height when I'm riding, take some of the rain off. The other camera just there. There you go. I've installed an auxiliary tank as well, 5-litre auxiliary tank, just to add some miles. Just sits there on the frame. Yes, people's asked me, are you worried that it's going to fall and explode? No, not really, because if I fall, these are going to be out, and this is going to pretty much take most of the brunt before it hits that, you know. We'll come back up to here. So you see that Quadlock, got the dampening unit there. I've used this phone that I've got, my Samsung 22. I've used that now for over a year on this bike. Hasn't damaged the camera anyway. So the anti-vibration works. I've moved this from down here. This was originally here. So I've moved the GPS bracket up. Got a Cymark's anti-theft bracket. That's just protecting my TFT dash from theft, because all it is 2 bolts either side. They have been nicked. People say it's a waste of money, but these screens have been nicked in the UK when parked. They cost over £1,000 to replace. I mean, for 50 quid, I'd rather park next to somebody without it. Theirs can get nicked, mine will be okay, thank you very much. Then we come to this. So this is the SW Motec magnetic tank clip. So I do have the City Pro one, which sits on the tank. These came from Motor Graphics. You can see there, it's from where I've been like leaning on the tank and standing up, it has taken a bit of a bashing, but it's protected my tank, so that's worked. And we come along here. This is a cover seat. This only cost me about £9 on Amazon. Now Nippy Norman sell them for 100 quid. Again, I've gone through that in my last video. So as you can see from the position I'm sitting in, this is in the stiffer suspension. I've changed that all on the suspension settings. As you can see, I've got both feet slightly down. I'm just off the balls of my feet. So I'm 5'8". I've got a 29-inch inside leg. This is on the comfort seat, which is slightly wider and less narrow than the other seat. So, but from the other one, I could flat foot it. This one I can't flat foot it. I'm slightly up. Putting this on, I've also added some bar risers on here, just to keep me in that upright position like that. 1 foot I can go down on one side like that with it slightly leaned over. That's not an issue. So for those that are vertically challenged like us, this is a nice bike to have. It's not too high. The seating position itself, if I come back on this side, so that's the seating position like that. So with the bar risers, I brought the bars up slightly. Before, probably leaning, so these were probably down here, so I was like in that position there, which was putting a lot of pressure on my back. So I've added the bar risers just to bring it up a bit. So I'm now sitting back in the upright position like that. So when I'm just cruising on motorways or on long stretches, I've no longer got pressure on my lower spine. So this has just brought me back in an upright position. For long stretches, it's a very comfortable bike. So this bike retails in the region of around £10,000. Is it worth the money? I mean, I could have gone for the 850 GS. It would have probably had a lot of the stuff on the bike, such as like the spoke wheels would already be there. That would have saved me 1,500 quid. But I didn't like the 21 inch. Yes, I like to off-road the bike, but I spend more of my time on road, and I prefer the 19-inch wheel. It just feels better on the road than what a 21 inch does. Yes, the 21 inch works better off-road because it's larger. It has a larger rolling area over larger objects. There's benefits and there's non-benefits in that. The internal springs, I've changed those. I've got Touratech suspension now in my front. That's stopped the diving on the front. So when I used to pull the brake, you know, you'd go along and you'd pull it, and it would literally, I mean, that still dives a little like that, but before it would proper dive. You'd pull the brake and the whole bike would just. So having the Touratech suspension in, it's completely changed the bike for the better. I mean, if you're going to get any upgrade on your BMW GS 750, I can't speak for the other ones. So if you own a BMW F750 GS, if you are going to get any upgrade whatsoever on your bike, I would suggest getting the front suspension done. It completely and utterly changes the ride for the bike itself. The feeling, the turning it into corners and stuff like that. You've got so much feeling on the front now, and you no longer have that compression. When you pull the front brake, the bike's not diving all the way forward, and it just gives you so much confidence in your riding. So if you're going to go spend a lot of money, and to be fair, the suspension's not a lot of money. The Touratech springs will set you back about £100. The Hyper Pro springs are exactly the same as Touratech, and yeah, you might save about 20 quid on Hyper Pro, but the springs themselves, they're only about 100 quid. That is a massive difference to the bike. So for 100 quid, I would advise you to change the suspension and get Touratech springs in the front. You'll be blown away by the difference in how the bike handles and feels. Changing the exhaust, I know that's, I mean, changing the exhaust, I mean, I love changing my exhaust on my bikes. Every bike I've owned, I've had an aftermarket can on it. From my street triples, my Harley, all my Triumph bikes, from the Daytona, the street triple, speed triple, the Thunderbird, my CBR, my Fireblade. Every bike I have owned, I have changed the end can. This bike, I have not changed the end can, because all I did was spend about 80 quid on a Dominator mid-pipe, and I dropped the sound box out. It has completely and utterly changed the tone of this bike. I don't need to go and waste £700 on an aftermarket end can to save about 1.3 kilos. I don't see the point, for the fact I've already added a load of weight on the bike with the bash bars, the bash plate, the bark busters, the luggage. You know, I've already added weight. I don't see the point of spending £700 on an aftermarket exhaust. Mapping system. I've already spoken to Mansell's. There's a guy in the UK called Heed, and they can map the ECU in this bike, which will gain you more brake horsepower. There's a guy in Germany that does it as well. You could get 11 brake horsepower straight off the bat, literally standard. They will remap it, and you'll get nearly the equivalent of the 850 GS, so you get an extra 11 brake horsepower just with all the standard stuff on the bike, so exhaust, sound box, air filter, all that, and you will gain 11 brake horsepower. There's a company in Germany, look it up, but I'm going to get mine mapped at Mansell's. They're going to do it for me. I don't know what the price is on that yet, I've not really asked, but I just know they do it. So mileage on this bike, you get about, over here I'll get about 220 miles on a tank, depending how I ride. Now over here our speed limit's 40 mile an hour, so that's 40 miles, not kilometers. So that's our maximum speed limit. Majority of the time we're doing 30 mile an hour on a lot of roads over here. So I'll leave this in road mode, and I'll get, you know, a good 220 miles on this bike. In the UK, if I'm on road or I'm in dynamic, depending which, their speed limits are 70. A lot of the nationals are 60 on some of the B roads. So I'll get about roughly 180, about 180 miles an hour I'll get if I'm traveling at 60 in 6th gear. So that's why I opted for the external 5 litre tank, just to get some extra fuel in here. Miles per gallon over here, I can do anything up to like the UK, I'm doing about 51, 52. So over here, yeah, you're getting considerably amount. I think I've actually done 77 miles to the gallon on here one time in Jersey. It really does depend if it's summer or winter, because, you know, fuel burns at a higher rate and stuff, and depending on the temperature. That's why they do all those checks on fuel in Formula 1 and stuff, just checking the temperature of the fuel, because it actually burns better at certain temperatures. So that might be why I was getting 77 miles to the gallon at the time. But on average over here, I get about 61 to 65 miles per gallon. This is a keyless ride. I've just changed my battery on my bike, having owned it for about, I don't know, so it was October, November, December, 15. Yeah, so I've owned the bike for about 17 to 18 months. And they say the battery, on average, usually has to be replaced around 18 months. So my battery dropped, and I had a warning light come up on the screen. Going back about 2 months ago, it's 50%. I had a warning light that came on yesterday to say minimum function. So at that point, I've changed the battery over. It's nice and easy. It's just click the key out and just pull the thing off, and then just shimmy the battery out and put a new battery in. Nice and easy. Hasn't thrown up any warning lights or anything on the bike. Sometimes it does. It'll throw up a thing on the TFT dash to say engine warning, stop it in a dealership. But all you've got to do is remove the cables from the battery, leave it 5 minutes, put it back on, and then start it back up, and normally that will disappear again. So as you see under there, I've got a Denali mini bomb air horn under there. That's made a huge difference. You can see that in another video as well. I've read a lot of posts online about the nav6 ghosting and braking. Now, I've owned mine for over a year, use it quite frequently. It's not actually broken yet, but what I have done, because I still have my TomTom rider, my 450. So what I've done, I've kept that, and I've got a bracket from Adventure Bike shop, which actually fits this. So literally I could have my TomTom there if the nav6 does break and I need to send it back and have it replaced. So, but touch wood, that's not an issue, and that doesn't happen. Now you'll see a little wind deflector here. Again, this came off Amazon for about £8 or £9. Just clipped on to this, and it's made a complete difference with the wind deflection as well when I'm riding. So